Good morning and welcome to this morning's LinkedIn Live, which is all about trust, how to nurture trust in the workplace. My name is Cara Cuniff and I'm a leadership consultant with ThriveWell Global. We're going to do a deep dive this morning on what trust is, the trust equation, how we can evaluate trust in the workplace, how you can develop trust within your teams as a leader. We're going to look at how to build that trust. What can we do? What effective strategies can we put in place to build trust within the workplace and a culture of trust? And we're going to look at just some strategies to help you in your everyday business as a leader in terms of being seen and being trustworthy within your team, and also so that your teams trust you. There's two sides to trust. There is the trustworthiness element. Are you trustworthy as a leader? And there is the trusted element. So that is, do your teams have a trust for you? Are they choosing to trust you? What are you doing that is eliciting trust in your team? So we're now going to look at really, why do we need trust in teams? Why do we need trust in business? Well, actually, trust is really the foundational piece in business, and it's one of the key game changers in terms of a successful business. And there are four key elements to trust. We put this week a poll together about which pieces on LinkedIn, which pieces you believe were the most important in developing trust. We had credibility, we had reliability, we had intimacy, and we had self-orientation. So firstly, credibility. Of the poll where we asked which was the most important for building trust, you said 22% of you thought that credibility was the most important. So that's kind of like knowing your stuff, being, having a good reputation and being credible within your business and in the jobs that you do. Secondly, we had reliability. So that is about whether you keep your promises. Do you do what you say you do? Do you walk the talk? And 56% of you thought that reliability was most important. Then we've got intimacy. So when I say intimacy, what I'm talking about is, do you show vulnerability as a leader? Do you have empathy? Are you emotionally intelligent? How deep do the relationships go with your team? And interestingly, only 7% of you thought that intimacy piece, building personal connections, was important. And then finally, we've got self-orientation. So that is really putting others before you. Where do you position yourself? Do you put yourself as more important, or do you put others as more important? And 15% of you thought that self-orientation was most important. So if we look at credibility, reliability, intimacy, and self-orientation, they really are the critical factors that we need to think about developing when we want to build trust. That is what builds the trust equation. There is actually a way to score the trust equation, and we do that so that we can actually develop in detail how to become trustworthy. The mistakes that many leaders make in this is not focusing on all of those elements to start with. First of all, knowing those elements exist. Then secondly, actually working towards developing each of those elements within your team. And some of the mistakes that leaders make are not being consistent in their messaging and their actions. And this actually, this breaks down trust if you are not consistent in walking the talk. Then we've got actually lack of transparency, maybe being completely honest or having the integrity to do difficult things, even though you know that they're the right thing to do. And then also avoiding accountability. We are all we're all human, and at the end of the day, the accountability piece is so fundamental. If you make a mistake as a leader, own up to it, because actually owning up to that builds trust in your team, because your team see you as human. The other thing about the accountability piece is being a role model for the team that you want to lead, being that person out front and center that says, I'm human and I walk the talk, and this is how I would like you to behave. So, interesting fact for you, employees are 12 times more likely to be engaged when they trust their leader. So I'll say that again. Employees are 12 times more likely to be engaged when they trust their leader. And if you don't have that trust, teamwork gets affected, collaboration breaks down, morale drops, and ultimately productivity declines. So trust feeds into all of those pieces. It impacts the cohesiveness of the team. So let's have a think first of all about credibility. What happens if you don't have credibility in your team? Well, members may start to question the decisions you make and actually doubt your abilities. They may start to begin to believe that they know best, and that's not to say that they don't know some of the stuff more than you will, but they may start to act out differently if you lack that credibility in your team. Then we've got reliability. So this is about consistently delivering on your promises and being dependable, actually. And if you don't have reliability within your team, your team members may actually stop relying on you as a leader. What's the point? Because my leader isn't reliable and doesn't walk the talk and act out on what they say. So that might mean that deadlines start to get missed, that and actually ultimately the overall efficiencies will start to suffer. Then we've got intimacy. So as I said before, empathy, vulnerability, and you understanding your emotional needs, the emotional needs of your team. How emotionally intelligent are you? Without intimacy, the depth of relationships with your team will suffer, and your team members may begin to feel undervalued and isolated, and that in the long term affects engagement and can increase higher turnover rates. And then finally, the self-orientation piece. So this self-orientation, putting the needs of others before yours, feeds really nicely into servant leadership. Servant leadership is a very big part of the British Army. It's serve to lead. And a lot of organizations are now embedding this within their cultures. Serve to lead, as a leader, putting the needs of your teams in front of yours. If you don't do that, you can be perceived as selfish. So trust is part of a journey. And this journey starts with actually active listening. Am I listening to what my teams are telling me? Or do I believe I know better? So it starts with active listening and being really present for your teams and understanding what is going on for them. When you've built up that active listening piece, you then move into the empathy piece. So understanding what's going on for your teams. It's not just about listening, it's also understanding empathetically to what's going on for them. And then this is almost like an online game where you're unlocking the steps. So first of all, you unlock the first step, active listening, then you move into empathy, you unlock empathy, and then you move into the next step, which is where you've got that deeper sense of rapport with your team members. And once you've unlocked the rapport piece, you then move on to the next step, which is trust. But know that this isn't necessarily linear, and sometimes trust can be broken. Maybe it's something beyond your control. And if that is the case, you may need to move back to the active listening piece again. So back to active listening, empathy, rapport, trust. And when you've got that trust, that's where the beauty happens. It's the magic in the relationship. It's where you are then able to farm more influence the culture and the outcomes, the outcomes of what you're actually wanting to achieve in the team that you do. So it's like a bridge between two people. And as you move through this bridge and you come closer and closer together, that's where the magic happens. And we do that through developing trust. So I now want to just give you a couple of tools really to think about in terms of how to build trust. What do you need to do? We've all been in those situations where maybe we don't, for whatever reason, trust 100% that person. So one of the things you can do is make lots of small promises and fulfill them. So instead of going for the big all-out promise, make lots and lots of smaller promises. And as you make those promises and fulfill them, you will build trust. With that, actually, goes making lots and lots of small appreciations. So rewarding your team, often for small things. It often takes only 6 seconds to say well done to somebody. And that can fill part of the motivational piece that we all need within a team. So, making sure that, you reward, and that can just be as simple as a verbal well done. A very simple one is actually addressing people by name. Now, this is something that actually I find hard remembering names, but it's something I'm working on, and I work on every single day because I know the importance of calling somebody by their name, the appreciation that they feel when you know their name and you use it. And one of the other things that's extremely effective is asking others for their point of view. Because when you ask others for their point of view, you are building an intimacy piece, and you are actually working on the self-orientation piece. You are putting their needs before yours. So it could be that you go into a business meeting and you are about to start, you're leading up the agenda. Instead of just going straight to the agenda, you could turn around and say, just wanted to check this is still appropriate for what we want to discuss today, because I want to make your time valuable. You're putting them at the forefront, and you're making sure that they understand that their time is valuable. So trust is a bedrock within teams and within business. If you feel that your team, for whatever reason, is struggling from the trust piece, or that maybe your leadership has some characters that are potentially challenging and breaking down and fragmenting this trust piece, then give me a call, send me a message, reply to my email, and we can set up an insights call to understand more about what's going on for you and your teams and how we can build trust back into your organization. So my name is Cara Cunniff, leadership consultant with ThriveWell Global. Please message me and also subscribe to my YouTube channel. Look forward to seeing you next week. Thank you.